We are in the last little bit of September, approaching another full moon, this one in Aries. I am Chris McClary with your daily CIRF report, looking for the biggest collective influence that might be affecting the way you think, feel, and behave. And did you happen to have the same kind of muddy, quicksand, lethargic, otherly dreamy feeling this weekend, particularly yesterday? What we forgot to mention, well, we mentioned the moon in Pisces, but we forgot to mention the two sextiles that were happening one with Pluto and Jupiter. Just made this whole weekend very dreamy, at least for me. I'm wondering if anyone else felt that. But as we approach the full moon on September 24th, we are going to be experiencing some interesting sensations. Let's get right to it. Moon and Mercury together still, very close in Libra. This is a nice aspect, harmonious. We have some other aspects. Nothing in here is terribly awful. The biggest aspect that I'll cover now is the moon going into Aries. This is a little bit later. Right now, you're still, as you wake up and get started on your Monday, if you kind of felt that lethargic feeling this weekend, you might be carrying that out because it's still really in Pisces. I've represented the full moon that's going to be later tonight. And so anyway, the energy is going to shift later on in the day as the moon continues to wax into the full moon, and it's going to enter into Aries, and it's going to be conjunct with Chiron, the wounded healer, the centaur warrior. And so even that's kind of could be looked at as a beneficial aspect. There's also a moon trine Jupiter aspect, especially throughout the early part of the day. That's also beneficial. There's a lot of beneficial stuff in here. Why the heck are we talking about the discontent? Well, let's start with numerology. This is a complex. There's a lot of drama. There is confusion. And there's a lot of wondering what other people are feeling and why they're doing things that they're doing. So we have that aspect. Then we also have inside of the 24-hour of the moon, they found scientifically that people do tend to get more aggressive. People tend to get more irritated. And with the moon going into Aries now, we've got the very early parts of the first zodiac sign, Aries. And so we're starting anew. We're starting a brand new thing. Full moon, coincidentally, is the ending, the completion of a cycle, and Aries is the beginning. So it's gone full circle. It's kind of chaotic though, and what we're going to see is, besides what I said about the full moon, let's go into the DreamBot. This is the collective dreams on September 24th, and all these red arrows you can see are struggle. We're struggling as a community. There I am. All right, so what are the red arrows? What are the words? Rope, hands, shoot. Shoot. Tries, rule, controlling, hanging, throw, worried, attempt, disabled, underwater. Underwater is kind of what I felt like all weekend. Not that it was a bad feeling, but it was very sluggish. Anyway, what do these red arrows mean? I think they mean struggle, just humanity's general struggle against what's happening now. And going back to the astrology, it's the full moon, just the full moon in itself, and then you've got full moon conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, is going to flood your memory banks with old wounds. Okay, I guess that's how he heals, is he forces you to think about it again. But then you've also got Aries, and so all these generally positive aspects combined together seem to be just confusing and dramatic. So after we get back from the kind of segment, we're going to talk about how to work through this. It's a full moon over Chiron. Humanity clearly is feeling kind of that struggle against old wounds. And let's talk about how to handle that coming up next. All right, now if you like the concept of whittling everything down to one particular influence and then talking about the best way to handle that influence, then subscribe. That's below, and hit the bell button so that you get notified and you don't miss any of the episodes. So when people are flooded with old memories of the past and we're irritated and we tend to struggle, and you can do this with just trying to distract yourself. So you'll go do something, and this is where bad habits form, is because this subconscious material, whenever it starts to bubble up, we just go do the distraction, maybe smoke a cigarette or drink, or I don't know, whatever bad habit that you might have. Pick your fingernails, pick your cuticles, whatever, bite your lip. This is the distraction method, and it causes us to suffer. And in general Freudian terms, it's the result of the struggle that causes the suffering rather than the actual item. Because, let's think about it. The old wound, as it comes up and floods the memory, where is it? It's in the thought patterns. It feels like we're still back in the past, but we're not in the past. We're physically here, but in our mind, it feels like we're embedded into the past. So how do we get around that? Well, some people do the rituals. Some people, there's meditations to release these old things. And for some people, they work, and time heals. But for other people, they can release all they want, and there's still this garbage and baggage from the past that continues to haunt them, or so they perceive. It haunts them, and then they struggle, and then they suffer. So what we want to do is to end the suffering by not distracting. And if there's another way to handle it so that we don't have to distract ourselves, then we don't have to suffer. So what do? First of all, be aware. Awareness gives you choices. Become aware that you're struggling, and become aware that it's the act of struggling that causes the suffering. Because without the awareness, you're still going to unconsciously go through your avoidance and struggle habits and distractions. So become aware. Then, after you've become aware, then allow yourself to be present instead of embedded in the past. It's really the only way to struggle or to believe that you're really in the past, even if it's unconsciously, is to give it credence. So you're giving these thoughts credence that they're actually real, and they're just thoughts. So the second step is, after you become aware, is to diffuse. So diffuse thought from reality or reaction. So most of us, when we get mad, it's anger, slam the door. You're fused with it. And so if you're defused, you can become angry without slamming the door. Then maybe, I'm just going to diffuse my anger. Not ignore my anger, but do something different with that anger. Channel it. Aries is a great time to channel energy. But diffusing from the thought means that you can take a step back from the thought, not ignore the thought, but take a step back and diffuse from it and see that this, whatever I'm struggling with, is just a thought that feels real, but it's just a thought. And then you can come to reality. And you come to reality by opening up your five senses. What do you see? What do you taste? What do you smell? What do you hear? What do you feel? All these sensations. And then as soon as you come back to reality, so you open up your five senses and you're like, oh wow, this is the reality that I have, not my thoughts. Then what happens? The mind immediately almost goes back to the thought again. So it's like spring-loaded to the past. So what we have to do is practice continuing to be present. And you do this with mindfulness meditation is a great way to do this. Or just take frequent breaks. You can give yourself a reminder to look within during the day. You know, maybe every 15 minutes is just for a day or two. You have an alarm on your clock or your phone, and it tells you to look within. Look, what are you looking for? Looking for any signs of struggle, any tension anywhere, or any thought patterns that are happening, any emotional patterns that are arising again. And then don't distract yourself when you see them. Just allow them to be there, but don't jump into them as if it's another virtual reality. It's not a reality, it's just thoughts. So come back to your real reality, which is in your five senses. All right, thank you for all your likes and support. Have a wonderful full moon as we go watch everyone else act like little kids and struggle. But as long as you know how to prevent from struggling and know how to diffuse, then we're going to be rock stars and freeing ourselves from the problem sets. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks for being here.